Dr. Larson, welcome. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Thank you. Thanks for having me here.
Great. Yeah, so for everyone on the line, what Meddkit's been doing is interviewing private practices ever since COVID, and we have Dr. Larson on the line with us today. So, Dr. Larson, you and I were just chatting, but why don't you tell us a little bit about your practice and your specialty and how you got into medicine?
Yeah, well, about 6 years ago, I took over an eye clinic. It was fairly small back then, but we've grown pretty big. It's called Eye Central, and it's here in Louisiana, in Shreveport. And we've really been growing in our ability to help patients not just get glasses and contact lenses, but we are also treating glaucoma. We're using lasers, surgeries to help lower eye pressures. We are helping with dry eye and macular degeneration and all sorts of every eye condition you can have. We're helping and treating patients, and so we've become fairly well known around here, just due to the fact that we're extra thorough. And if you really don't know what's going on with your eyes, you come down to our clinic, and we will, if anything, over educate you on everything that you've inherited, what you're going through, and what you're going to expect for the rest of your life. So we really love the medical side, and we have an optical too, and we have really cheap glasses for sale and also fancy designer glasses. So that's the other half of our clinic, is the optical, selling glasses.
Got it. Great. So, I told you just before this, like we've been asking a lot of private practices how COVID has sort of changed operations somewhat. How has it impacted you, and what has your practice been, doing because of it?
Well, my practice typically has about 12 employees. And so for 2 months, we had to let go of all of them. And so we pretty much shut down. The Board of Optometry in Louisiana mandated that we only see emergency patients for pretty much 2 full months. And so whereas I typically see about, 100 patients a week or 200 patients a week, I was down to seeing 5 people a week, just 5 emergencies. So you can't run a business off of that. So we shut down. While we were shut down, I had a little bit of remodeling done. We took some space in our building that was kind of empty space, and we turned it into more exam rooms. And so now that we're opened up again, we have to do social distancing, we have to wear masks, but we have almost twice as many exam rooms right now. So as soon as you get here and you get checked in, rather than waiting in a big waiting room full of people, we put you right into your own private exam room. And we're actually able to see quite a lot of people and have them be isolated and in their own places, and never interact with many people. So we kind of, that's the new normal now. We have completely not only remodeled, but our protocols are different. Our front desk is now literally next to the front door. And so COVID-19 has changed everything about our flow and how we treat and how we move patients around our building. So
Are
but
patients
now everyone,
becoming more comfortable with coming into the office now? It seems like you've been very busy in the last couple
yeah,
of days.
patients are dealing with the virus their own way too. A lot of patients are happy to be back and happy to be able to be treated and have their broken glasses fixed again, or have their problems addressed. But patients are incredibly patient. They when they see that maybe we get backed up, they see that we're practicing as safe as possible, and they see that we're doing our best, and so they're a little bit more patient if they have to wait an extra 10 minutes for their turn to go out into the optical and look for glasses. And so patients are being very, very good, and I mean, they're almost everyone's coming with a mask on. They're being very responsible and very mature about the whole issue that we're all trying to survive right now. So I'm very grateful. I got some really good patients that are just they got a smile on their face, and we're getting through this.
Well, and it sounds like from what I've seen, your patients have a lot of good things to say about you too. What's the secret? What I know your philosophy of care is to sort of, based on how you started your private practice, is to really provide great care, eye care, regardless of someone's ability to kind of pay or income level or whatnot. But what sort of what's your secret? How do you have so many happy patients?
Well, we kind of set things up for success by we've invested in some really nice equipment. So as doctors, we have all the technology that the world's invented at my fingertips in my office, just across the hallway. So I get the best information on every patient immediately. But the secret for the patient side of things is when you gather all that information, then you turn around and you look at the patient and you give them your full attention, and you slow down and you ask them, you even ask them, what do you do for a living? Tell me what's the hardest part about your day. And it's just a 30-second conversation, but it feels like it's the most meaningful part, because I just established, you're a person, I'm a person, let's get to know each other for just a minute, and then look up here at this big screen TV, let's talk about all of the things we found out about your eyes. And so because of the technology, we can gather the information faster, so that we can have that extra minute of time for personal one-on-one relationship. So that they can really see that, how much I care about them, and they're not just what do we say? They're cattle being pushed through the ranch. We don't treat people like cattle here. We treat them like real people.
It's so cool that you do that. I know a lot of the physicians that we work with, and those that I've worked with over the years, the challenge for them is, how do I provide that kind of time and that kind of care to someone when all of my reimbursement and all of my metrics are tied to just quick, short visits, when I have to see 25, 22 patients per day. How do you do that? How do you handle that?
Well, the technology helps, but smartest thing I ever did is I hired a second doctor. And so, because sometimes things don't go according to the plan, and a simple patient turns into a complicated one. When you have a second doctor on staff with you, there's a buffer zone then where maybe I'll get backed up. And so rather than having all of the patients behind me have to wait an extra long time for me to be ready, the other doctor, maybe he catches up on his simple patients, and he can jump in and help me. So it's kind of like two doctors working as a team makes the problems a lot less of a interruption. So I couldn't spend as much time as I do with people if I didn't have that second doctor backing me up. And you have to get really good doctors too, doctors who are just as nice as you, and just as intent on giving the patient that one-on-one time.
Cool. I bet it has something to do with scheduling too, not overbooking your
Yeah.
both of your schedules, so that you're feeling like you have to rush.
Yeah, that's always a challenge, and honestly, right now people are less predictable. The patient base for COVID-19 patients right now, we had one day where 20 people no showed, and all of them told me the day before they were coming, and then the next day, like, we'll have only a couple of no shows. And so the scheduling is up in the air these days. Right now, people are a little bit less predictive, I'll just say.
Well, and there's
Less,
probably less of a way for you to be able to interact with your patients via video remotely, right? Given the kind of care that you provide. So you're probably kind of, at a sort of a whim for whether or not they show up, and with everything that's been happening, that might be difficult.
yeah, we'll send a bunch of text messages to remind you, but just sometimes life happens and people can't come in.
Yeah. So where do you see things going for your practice? How do you think, do you see kind of some of the restrictions and limitations from COVID sort of easing over time and allowing you to sort of resume your full load, your full busy schedule, or do you think it's going to be sort of some time before that happens?
That's a good question. There's a lot of talk of a second rise in COVID cases and maybe shutting down. And so, as a business, I would love to wish that we can go back to normal as soon as possible.
Hmm.
But the signs that I'm seeing are suggesting I'm probably going to be, wearing my mask with patients for a very, very long time, because I'm literally face to face with them, very close, looking at my microscope, looking at their eyes under a very close proximity. So I don't see an end to me wearing a mask probably for a good year until or maybe never, maybe from now on. I wouldn't be surprised if our hyper clean protocols of wiping down everything everywhere anyone could have touched. I think that's here to stay forever. What may or may not change and relax will be the social distancing. We'll see if in a few months or 6 months from now, if we don't have to stay 6 feet away from everybody. I think that'll calm down a little bit.
Hmm.
But as of right now, there's a lot of things that we are extra vigilant with, and I don't see that really changing for a very long time. It's always smart to be clean, but now we're extra clean and wiping down doorknobs and stuff. There's stuff we never did before, but we're doing now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, cleanliness is good, but the I think everyone's excited to get back to, to seeing COVID disappear and to get back to real life, so to speak. So we'll see when that happens.
Yeah. One last thing I'll mention about kind of predictions is there's a few less optometrists in my part of town here. And there's a lot of the clinics that are still here where there are doctors, they haven't opened up very to full capacity. So not only do I have to manage the 2 months of patients that I missed and trying to squeeze them into our schedule, but I'm having patients walking in from other clinics who maybe gave them a prescription, but the optical is still
Interesting.
closed. And so we have there's never been a bigger demand for patients on my clinic than ever before. Um, I've been thinking about even hiring a third doctor, and I've rarely had the capacity to do that. So clinics like mine that are and we I don't know, we might find other ways to expand our building to be able to take in more people, but have the space to do that in a smart and safe way. But yeah, because right now we've never had this big of a demand. We have an overabundance of business. Marketing is always a big important thing for us to do, to reach out and get more patients. But right now we're like, oh, we don't need more patients. We just need to handle the ones that are begging for their eyes to be cared for right now, that are already at our door. So that's a positive note that I'm grateful for.
Hmm.
That we have all the business we want. We just have to manage it smart
So
in the best
what has made it
way.
more difficult for other local practices nearby you to open their doors to the extent that you have? Do they just not have the infrastructure in place, the technology that you mentioned earlier in our conversation?
It's so I have some guesses. I don't really know what's going
Hmm.
on in other businesses, but from what I understand, some of these big national chains, big corporations have more strict rules, and they don't really see what's going on with their boots on the ground. And so, whereas I'm the owner of my own small business, I can gauge every day, and I can say, you know what, tomorrow we can take 5 more patients because we
Right.
have this space in this room, and we can, whereas some big large corporations have overarching rules that they have to follow. And I'm not sure, but I've heard some opticals like Walmart aren't opened yet, and just because they're waiting for a date probably to open up all the stores in an entire state all at once. um, like I said, I'm not sure, but patients are walking in and seeing me. um, Here's another thing to mention is there's some insurance companies that um, like vision plans that are crashing and burning right now. And a lot of optometrists in my state, in my area, they're dropping these insurance plans because the insurance companies which help provide the glasses are backed up and not providing a very good service. Well, the patients that have these vision plans are finding that very few doctors are accepting their vision plans. And it's not the
Wow.
patient's fault that there's this unorganized mess of problems. And so I'm kind of like the lone doctor that takes a lot of these vision plans, and I'm managing the mess that the vision insurance companies are making, and I'm helping to manage that and still help the patients and still help them get their glasses. And so I guess I'm right now I have a little bit of patience. I'm hanging on there. I haven't given up on these vision plans yet for the sake of all these patients who need the care. Otherwise, they wouldn't have any doctors to see. So I'm seeing a lot more patients because I'm a little bit more forgiving for these vision plans and their problems.
So is it just the AR? Is it the delay in the claim reimbursement process, or there's sort of new regulations or rules that they're working to enforce to kind of streamline things given the challenges from COVID?
Well, a lot of these companies have sent all their staff home, and so there's a lot of people working at home where before I'd see a patient, and that patient would then go and order glasses at my office. I would send that frame and those lenses off to a lab, and then that insurance company would produce the pair of glasses and send me the final product back. Well, that lab that used to have hundreds of people working there have only one person there, and they're a lot slower at processing the glasses, the production of the frames and the lenses, and then the person I call is somebody at home who's not physically at the lab anymore. So the communication between doctor and lab to help the patient's products get made as fast, that's very slow communication right now, and so they're all backed up, and it's just it's not as productive to have everyone working from home, but it's safer that way. And I don't know when all these labs will be back and running at full speed again, because they have a lot of challenges and lots of people working in small, tight conditions. So they're trying to figure that out right now.
That makes sense. I mean, it's difficult on everyone, it sounds like. But one of the things you mentioned about the advantage you have in being a private practice is that you can sort of you have a better feeler and a better sense for what's happening in your local community, and your ability to kind of provide care is unique, where a large corporation may not have that flexibility. But what are some of the challenges like during this time? I hear from private practitioners all the time that like cash flow is much more difficult, and they're looking for more stimuluses from the government, their local governments. What are some things that people, the government, or regulatory bodies can do to sort of help private business owners like yourself and private practitioners, given what might be some difficult and persistent challenges among that community?
Good questions. So I was incredibly afraid of my business because when you take away 2 months of cash flow, that empties my bank account down all the way, and my bank account's there for the business to pay the bills. All that nice technology I have notes and bills to pay to keep those, and so when you take away 2 months of income financially, it nearly kills us. It nearly bankrupts us. And so we fought really hard for, I forgot what they're called, the PPP loans and the EIDL loans that the government was getting, and we failed to be able to get those loans for the first round. And you might have heard that only 10% of small businesses actually got any government help. And so they passed another big stimulus, and they a month ago or so, and luckily me and my wife worked hard, and we worked really hard to try in any way possible to get the loan the second time, and we got it. So
Good.
this loan like provided many months worth of payroll for us. It allowed us to have some money in our bank account. We started to pay off our debts before they started to confiscate our equipment back from us. The one thing I wish that I'd express is just the fact that every bank that, as far as I know, banks and financial institutions are doing really well right now, and we're all dying out here in this desert. And I would wish that, you know, these banks and financial institutions could just please like give us a break. Like, we'll pay you all the money we owe you, but if you could just, you know, give us 6 months of not needing to pay on our loans. I don't know. We're just taking a hit so deeply financially. It'd be nice to, if the banks could take a hit, 1% hit or something. You know, if they could sacrifice just a little, it would keep all of us above our heads in the water, and we would be saved from drowning out here, because it's just the demands of keeping up with your finances is what's the hardest thing. So if anything that could be passed, I mean, I'm very grateful for the stimulus money and for those loans that the government gave us, because that's what's keeping me alive now. But if we were to have to shut down again for another couple of months, then it's all about, like, are the banks going to force us into bankruptcy or not? Are they going to let me keep my instruments and trust that I'll make the money back in 6 months or not? And so it's just the cash flow problems. I think we're managing, you know, as far as the disease goes, I think that as a community, we're handling it well. I feel confident that I'm not putting my patients in danger, that when they come into my building, that they are safe. And even though we're seeing a lot of patients, we're practicing the safest guidelines. And I'm proud to be able to say I'm running a good, successful business and not putting anyone in danger. I think that's because my eyes and ears are everywhere. I see almost every room of my clinic all day long, and so we're able to really manage that well. So it's just the finances is, I think, the hardest part.
It's hard, and it's, you know, it's forced, one of the reasons that, you know, from everything we've seen, for all the consolidation that's been happening in the industry, and you're almost kind of an exception these days, because so many private practitioners or individuals who had once owned private practice or have dreams of it, you know, have had to exit that dream or exit that reality because of the pressures. And that was before COVID really happened, just with the keeping up with regulations, keeping up with IT, changing reimbursement, things. It's definitely more than just one full-time job. So, you know,
Yeah.
looking at just kind of what needs to change in healthcare, and number one, I hold it important that there should be private practices for providing really the majority of care in the United States, as was historically always the case. But from your perspective, like, what needs to change to make that a reality? What needs to change from a either regulatory perspective or just a, you know, administrative perspective to actually allow private practices to kind of thrive once again?
That's a good question. Well, so private practices are, it's really wonderful to be able to have the option to choose between going to a hospital type of a clinic. With eye exams, there's a lot of options. You can go to America's Best and have a national corporation see you, and you can go to a guy like me, and I have a private practice, a family-owned business, or you can go to the hospital and kind of have a different experience over there. Ophthalmology have their types of clinics. And so I think it's absolutely wonderful that we have many different types of options, because each option has its pros and its cons. If you took away private practice, if you made it like too difficult on me to run a business, and all that would be left are kind of the extremes of a really expensive medical facility and then a really cheap glasses store, and nothing in between, I think
Right.
patients end up either spending way too much money at something else, or getting such a horrible quality
Yeah.
valuation of their eyes in another location. And so private practice is kind of the happy medium in a lot of ways, because I mean, I'm your doctor and I'm the owner. So if there's a problem with your glasses and you're told by someone that, oh, you can't get a remake, you have to deal with these frames and these lenses for the next year. I mean, you can complain to the owner and I'll make it right. Like, I'm a human. I'm not forcing my staff members to abide by some corporate rule, and that they can, hide behind, oh well, the rule on the wall says no refunds. Like, we're a very manageable, easygoing business, and we're sincere in our desires and our efforts to make everything work well for you and make everything right. And with a lot of different things, private practice is under attack. And so traditional private practice is pretty much dying. And when I call it traditional private practice, I mean the way private practice has been run and has worked is no longer really possible nowadays. And so what you get is these new younger doctors like me, who are trying to use technology, change the way I evaluate eyes, without decreasing the care, but using technology a lot more, saving time here, saving time there, using technology for patient communication. I have to always, every single day, be on the lookout for ways that I can save money so that I can run my business, so that my patients can still get a quality eye exam, but not have to break the bank for them either. So I honestly am always learning new things, getting to know technology better. And I know that in 2 years from now, my business will not be the same as today, because I'm going to keep needing to adapt to survive. And I hope that I hope that my eye exams continue to be high quality ones too, so that I don't decrease the quality while I attempt to survive all of this.
I think that kind of flexibility is key, and it's great that you said, you're always on the lookout to discover kind of what technology is available. There are many physicians who were negatively impacted by maybe the first round of EHRs or the first wave of health tech and sort of regulations that were pushing them to do something they didn't really want to do, and that has kind of made it difficult for them to embrace some new things that are available that really can help. And it's not really their fault. Again, when you're burned once, you're less likely to maybe be open to something new in the future. But it's great that is kind of your perspective, where you're embracing sort of all of the ways to make things more efficient, but also, like you said, how your emphasis is on marketing. You're always working to get the word out about your business to new patients, and I think that's something that isn't necessarily traditional private practice. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's the future is exciting, and we just have to work smarter, not harder, if we're gonna survive this, I think.
yeah, well, it's been a pleasure to talk to you, and I'm sure people will have questions or maybe want to get in touch with you afterwards. What's your website? What's the best way to get a hold of you or to connect with you?
The best way is our website's myeyecentral.com. So it's www.my, and it's eyecentral is EYECENTRAL. If you want to email me, it's just myeyecentral@gmail.com. And I have access to all of our emails. A lot of things go past my eyes, and so it's pretty easy to get a hold of me. Yeah, we're located in the southern part of Shreveport. It's pretty easy. Our office is right off the freeway, the 3132 loop, and where Mansfield and Jewella Avenue connect. But it's pretty easy to get a hold of me. Either probably by the email is the best way.
Well, it's been a pleasure hearing from you and speaking with you, and very much enjoyed your ideas and some of the things that you've discussed about how private practice has been impacted since COVID. So everyone, please feel free to reach out to Dr. Larson. And Dr. Larson, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.